How many adults feels like this describes you? You're consistently exhausted even though you feel like you're getting enough sleep. You're dealing with unexplained weight changes, you have brain fog, mood swings, you're dealing with gut issues. All of these challenges are so common, but they are not normal and they shouldn't be normal. They feel like they might be unrelated, but these are all connected to one hidden root cause that we see all the time parents are dealing with, any adult is dealing with, when they have no idea it's all connected. That's what we want to talk about here. It's something called HPA Axis Dysfunction. HPA stands for hypothalamus pituitary adrenal function. Don't worry about the big words. We're going to get into all the details here. But what it is, it's this communication pathway between your brain and some of your hormone systems, specifically some of the stress responses that are involved in a lot of the terms you might have heard thrown around, like adrenal fatigue, that is related to feeling exhausted or feeling like your stress system is burnt out. There is so much more to the story than just doing hormone testing and trying to manage stress, whatever that might mean or whatever that might look like for you. Unfortunately, I'm really not a big fan of the traditional approaches to these challenges because they really just focus on the individual symptoms and not really in a helpful way, right? You're maybe gonna get medications for anxiety, you get some sleep medications, you get some generic lifestyle changes and recommendations, but it never gets to the underlying neurological issue. And a lot of times the families who are dealing with that are already doing those things, right? Maybe that's you. You feel like you're checking all those boxes. You're doing all the crunchy family wellness, organic lifestyle things, but you're still feeling like this and you're still wondering what you can do to help. So let's get into it. Let's provide a little bit more context as to why this is something that is connected, where we see it coming from, and then of course the important part of what can you do to actually make a difference and what can you do to get to those root cause based challenges. Let's start by really explaining that HPA axis. Like I said, it's hypothalamus pituitary adrenals. And what that is the communication between your brain and some of the endocrine systems, specifically those stress hormones. Those control so much of your day-to-day quality of life and what you might be struggling with these topics in these categories. Your stress regulation, your energy levels, your mood, even your immune system, and your sleep cycles are all going to be connected to this HPA axis. It's okay to deal with an acute temporary stress, right? I don't want to have this message that stress is bad because it is unavoidable and it's not always a negative thing, right? We want to have experiences. We don't want to live life in a bubble and just hide from anything that might be a negative experience or might be a stressor for us. We want to be able to handle those stresses better and have it not tank our system and get us stuck in a negative rut. So the stress is not the problem. The problem is when it becomes chronic instead of a temporary acute thing, right? Like if you see a bear in the woods and you've got to get out of there or you've got to fight it, that is what that adrenaline, cortisol, adrenal process is for, right? It ramps up your stress response to get out of that stressful situation. That is totally okay temporarily, but a problem when it becomes chronic. Whether the stressor is chronic or, what is often the issue, your body just gets stuck in that responsive state. Even if you don't feel like there's major stress in your life, you're still functioning physiologically in that way. So one thing you might not realize or might not be thinking about is that, yes, this is a conversation mainly about kids or adults that we're having right now, but the same process can and does happen in a lot of our kids. We see this starting so early. Some of those early factors might be maternal stress, right? Moms and families, parents who've had fertility challenges, maybe they've experienced a loss. You know that you're in that survival mode during pregnancy. That pattern and those hormones are really starting what baby's development is going to look like too, right? That is what that newborn is kind of getting hardwired for, right? Their stress response is already going to be more ramped up. This gets massively amplified then when we add in birth interventions and birth trauma, because now this kid is both experienced more stress, but typically that birth process is going to injure or damage a really sensitive, really important part of their brainstem, that very top part of the neck, which is involved in a lot of the stress regulation functions. It's a nerve called the vagus nerve, does so many amazing things that are beyond the point of this video. But what we see is the kids that have had some of those early life factors, what we call the perfect storm, way more likely to be colicky, refluxy, constipated newborn, or maybe a toddler with ear infections or mouth breathing or adenoids and tonsils concerns, all the way into older kiddos who are dealing with, school age issues like sensory processing challenges, they're not coordinated, anxiety, ADHD. We see so much of that connected to this HPA axis, to this nervous system that's stuck in fight or flight. So it's not just you, mom and dad, it's a lot of times our kids that are dealing with some of that stuff too. And so that is really the message here, is when you think about these symptoms or you think about these challenges that feel really diverse, right? Like we said, it can be physical ones, like some of the energy or the sleep or the the gut stuff. It could be mental, emotional, and cognitive things, whether you feel really anxious, you have brain fog, hard time remembering stuff, or a hard time winding down, right? Maybe you've heard the phrase wired but not tired, or maybe wired but tired is a better way to put that. You want to go to bed, you want to fall asleep, but your brain just won't stop, right? It can't settle down, it can't throttle down to allow you to get to those stages of rest, or to those deeper stages of rest that you really need to wake up to feel restored, right? Maybe you're sleeping, but you wake up feeling like crap still. You don't feel like you got enough energy and rejuvenation out of that. Those can be all connected to this too. Hormone stuff, right? Fertility struggles, maybe cycle is weird, thyroid and metabolism is off. All of this can be related to this HPA axis that we've got to get to the bottom of. So what you're hopefully hearing is that yes, there's some symptoms that can be connected, but we don't want to focus on the symptoms. We want to focus on how do we change that neurological hardwiring. That is where the scans that we do at Thrive here are so crucial. We get to actually measure how is your nervous system adapting to stress. One, what does that global big picture view look like? What is what's called HRV? It's actually, I grabbed it out of the scan room here right before starting the video. HRV, this scan is going to pick up on the beat-to-beat variability in your heart rate, which is a byproduct of the vagus nerve. It's basically measuring how turned on is your vagus nerve, how out of control is your stress response. And that is a huge indicator to, are we handling life okay, or are we feeling like we're tanked and we're shut down and our body's throwing in the towel? So that's a big part of it. And then we often see that maybe there's thyroid or adrenal areas showing up in your neurospinal system when we have parents who are feeling exhausted and feeling worn out. And a lot of times they're in not a flared up intense state, but we almost see their system in a shut down exhausted state, which is a step worse than when their system's fighting back. When there's at least some activity and some responsiveness left, that is a better scenario than what we see with a lot of families, especially pregnancy. They're past that and they're in an exhausted shutdown place. So if you're curious if that's what's going on with you, please reach out. Ask any questions to myself, to the team. That's what we're here for. We want to see what's going on with your system, see if we can do anything to help you heal and adapt better, right? Unlock some of those neurological stuck points to allow your body to respond better to stress, to get out of this cycle, because it really is a cycle, right? You get in this negative feedback loop of stress begets stress, and you get stuck in that rut, and it's really, really hard to turn it around with just the lifestyle stuff in that side of it. Those are all good things, right? Don't get me wrong. I want you to care about your nutrition and your lifestyle and your stress regulation, but it's going to be really limited unless we address that neurological underpinnings as well and get your system out of that hardwired for fight or flight mode. So we're here to help. Check out any of the resources we have on our website, or the PX Docs website has some great articles on this topic. And I can't wait to meet you soon and help your family thrive.